Can you believe it's been almost 50 years since anyone has walked on the moon? I mean, think about that. It was arguably one of the greatest achievements in all of human history. And then we just stopped. So today, we're going to dig into the big question: why? All right, so why do we stop? The official story, the one you read in textbooks, blames it on money. Budget cuts, a change in political focus. But there's this other theory, a much darker one that's been bubbling under the surface for decades. And it says we were told to leave, that we were warned away. So which is it?
Okay, so before we get into all of the wild stuff, we've got to start with the official story. Let's take a look at the Apollo program, and more importantly, how it all came to such a sudden, screeching halt.
Yeah, this timeline really tells the story, doesn't it? From 69 to 72, it was just bang, 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 6 successful missions to the moon, an incredible pace. We were on a roll. And then, December 1972, Apollo 17 comes home, and that's it, full stop. They even had more missions planned and paid for, and they just canceled them. So here are the two competing stories, laid out, plain, and simple. On one side, you've got the official line. Hey, the Cold War was basically over. We beat the Soviets to the moon, and the public kind of lost interest. Plus, it was insanely expensive. We're talking over $20 billion back then. But on the other side, you have a story that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, that our astronauts found something or someone already there, and we were told in no uncertain terms to stay away. Now look, these theories didn't just come out of nowhere. They're actually built on some really strange things that the Apollo astronauts themselves reported. And we're going to start with a really weird one from a mission that happened even before anyone had actually landed. So picture this. It's May 1969. The crew of Apollo 10 is on the far side of the moon. They are totally, completely cut off from Earth. Radio silence. And in that silence, they start hearing this sound. A weird, whistling noise that they literally called outer space-type music. It was so bizarre, they actually debated whether they should even tell NASA about it. Of course, years later, NASA came out with an explanation. They said it was just radio interference between their two spacecraft. And okay, that sounds plausible, right? But you have to put yourself in their shoes. In that moment, floating in the void, it was something totally alien and, frankly, pretty creepy. And it gets weirder with Apollo 15. So the crew is out there near a mountain called Hadley, and they see tracks, vehicle tracks. They describe them as linear and uniform. Now here's the kicker. Apollo 15 was the first mission to bring a rover. They hadn't even deployed theirs yet. So whose tracks were they? Okay, but one of the absolute biggest stories comes from Apollo 11 itself, on the way to the moon. It starts with Armstrong asking Mission Control, hey, where's that S-4B rocket booster we ditched? Houston radio's back. It's about 6,000 miles away from you guys. And that's when Buzz Aldrin sees it, something flying parallel to them, something metallic, cylindrical, with a light on. And the weird sightings didn't stop once they were in orbit. In fact, this next claim is probably the biggest one of all. The story goes that right after they landed, there was a 2-minute period of radio silence, a blackout. But what some people claim is that while the public channel was dead, Armstrong was still talking, on a secret, private channel. And this is supposedly what he said, that there were other spacecraft out there, just sitting on the edge of a crater, watching them, that they were huge, metallic. I mean, the claim is absolutely mind-blowing. It's the smoking gun, the very heart of this whole conspiracy. But it's not just about what the astronauts might have seen or said. Over the decades, other people with high-level security clearances in the military, have come forward saying, I saw the proof. There was a cover-up. Let's talk about two of the most prominent whistleblowers. First, you have Bob Dean, a U.S. Army Sergeant Major. His claim? That NASA intentionally destroyed 40 rolls of film from the Apollo 11 mission to hide what was on them. Then there's Carl Wolf, an Air Force sergeant, who said he personally saw NASA photos of an entire city on the dark side of the moon. And here's where it gets really strange. Both men died in October of 2018, just 1 week apart. Let's dig into Carl Wolf's story because it's a specific one. So it's 1965. Wolf is a young electronics technician at Langley Air Force Base. His job one day is to go over to the NASA facility on base to fix a piece of photo equipment. Pretty routine, right? Well, while he's there, another airman pulls him aside and says, hey, check this out. And he shows Wolf the photos coming out of the machine. And what Wolf saw, he claimed, was not just moon dust and craters. It was a city. He described towers, domes, strange mushroom-shaped buildings, a whole alien complex that he was sure the government was hiding from all of us. So you have these strange sounds, unexplained tracks, stories of entire cities. How could all of this be possible? Well, it all feeds into one of the biggest and wildest theories of them all, the hollow moon theory.
The basic idea is pretty simple, but it's a huge one. What if the moon isn't a moon at all? What if it's not a natural satellite, but a giant artificial structure? Like a massive, ancient spaceship that's just been covered in rock and dust over millions of years. I mean, that would certainly explain how something could be living inside it.
And believe it or not, there's a piece of scientific data that proponents point to as proof. It comes from Apollo 12, and it has to do with this number, 60 minutes. See, NASA told the crew to take the part of their lander that got them off the surface and crash it back into the moon. They had seismometers, earthquake detectors, set up to see what would happen. And the results were, well, they were stunning. The moon didn't just go thud like you'd expect a solid rock to, it vibrated. The official report said it rang like a bell for a whole hour, a full 60 minutes. And for people who believe the theory, that's it. That's the proof that the moon isn't solid rock, it's hollow.
So, when you boil it all down, you're left with two completely different ways of looking at this. On the one hand, you have the rational scientific explanations, right? Extreme stress can make you see things. The lighting on the moon is weird. Equipment breaks. Radio signals get crossed. All totally possible. But then, on the other hand, you have these stories that just won't go away. Consistent reports from different astronauts, claims from credible military insiders, and weird physical data that's really hard to explain.
And that brings us right back to the beginning. After looking at the official reasons and then digging into all these chilling reports and strange events, you have to wonder if the reason we haven't gone back is because we found something there, or someone. Then the biggest question isn't just what it is. It's, are we even welcome?